The scream cuts through the night long before anyone realizes the village is gone. It's a high, sharp sound, too sharp to come from something human, and it rises from the forest edge like a warning no one understands. The people in Aju wake suddenly, hearts pounding, as the echo spreads through the valley. But when they rush outside with lanterns and raised voices, the scream dies instantly, swallowed like something enormous just pressed a hand over its mouth. And then, before the night can breathe again, Aju disappears. No sound. No smoke. No fire. No footprints, just gone. Only one person sees the disappearance happen. A teenage boy named Sua, standing alone on the hill above the village, watching as the lanterns flicker, stretch, and then blink out one by one, like something is walking through the huts and swallowing the light as it moves. He opens his mouth to shout, but the darkness reaches him first. It rushes upward in a single wave, and the last thing he hears is his own heartbeat slamming like a drum. When morning comes, everyone assumes Ajul is waking. It's market day. The traders from the next town arrive early, pulling carts of yams and dried fish. They call out greetings. They wait. They knock on doors. No one answers. They knock harder. Still nothing. They push open the first door. The hut is empty, not looted, not disturbed, just missing its people. One hut after another, empty, untouched, lifeless. Not a single body, not a single belonging out of place, just cold hearts and sleeping mats that look like someone stepped away for a moment and never returned. And standing at the edge of the clearing, shaking violently, is Sua. He's covered in dust and trembling like a leaf caught between teeth. When the traders rush to him, he doesn't scream. He doesn't even speak. He only whispers one thing. It took them. The chief of the nearest town immediately sends word to the district. Soldiers arrive by sunset. Journalists creep in behind them. Pastors carry crosses. Traditionalists sprinkle salt on the ground. A professor from the university arrives with a laptop and too much confidence. Everyone believes they will be the first to explain what happened. But when they ask Sua, he repeats the same words every time. It took them. That is all he remembers. Or all he will admit. 3 days pass, nothing changes. The soldiers find no tracks, the pastors find no demons, the professor finds no scientific explanation, and Sua grows worse. He stops eating. He stops speaking. He stares at nothing like he's afraid it will blink first. That's when Kolechi arrives. He's not a pastor. He's not a soldier. He's not a scholar. He's just a young man from a neighboring town who grew up on stories told around fires. He doesn't have credentials. He has questions. And he believes Sua has answers. Sua sits under a mango tree, wrapped in a blanket even though the sun is hot. The hollow in his eyes is deep, too deep for someone his age. When Kolechi approaches, the soldiers nearby roll their eyes. Another villager comes to poke the traumatized boy. But Kolechi isn't here for gossip. He crouches slowly. He doesn't ask what happened. He simply asks. Where were you standing when it came? That gets Sua's attention. The boy lifts his eyes. They flicker with recognition. Finally, someone asking the right question. He points shakily toward the hill beyond the abandoned village. Kolechi doesn't wait. He stands and walks in that direction immediately. The soldiers shout at him. He doesn't stop. One of them follows reluctantly, others are orders, but Kolechi barely notices. His mind is sprinting. People don't vanish like light being snuffed out, not naturally. He climbs the hill. The soil here is loose, dry. The air feels wrong, as though it's thinner, stretched. At the top, he sees a small stone circle, too perfect to be random. Too smooth to be accidental. Inside the circle, the grass is dead. Completely dead. As if something leaned there for a long time. Something heavy, something old. At the center lies a symbol carved into the earth. A spiral made with fingernails, or claws. What do you think? The soldier behind him mutters nervously. Kolechi doesn't respond. His breath is tight in his throat. He points to the spiral. No one must step inside that circle, he says. His voice feels like it's not entirely his own. Not even by mistake. Is it a shrine? The soldier asks. No, Kolechi says. It's a mark. Mark of what? He doesn't look up when he answers. A claim. They leave the hill quickly, but something follows them down, silence. Heavy, pressing silence, as if the forest itself is listening. Kolechi's skin crawls. He can feel eyes watching from between branches that don't move. When they reach Sua again, Kolechi sits down in front of him. He speaks calmly, firmly, not with pity but with certainty. You saw it, didn't you? The boy's lips tremble. It had me breathing. What had you? Sua looks up with a face drained of every childhood softness. The Whisperer. Kolechi's chest tightens. That name comes from tales parents used to scare stubborn children. The Whisperer walks only where silence is broken, its voice is soft, its hunger is old, and its shadow does not like being seen. Most adults laugh it off, but the elders never laughed, they only said, "Pray you never hear it speak your name." Kolechi swallows. What did it say to you? Sua shakes uncontrollably. I didn't let it finish. What happened to the village? Sua's voice drops to a whisper more fragile than dust. It took their shadows first. Then their voices. Then their bodies followed. Kolechi feels the hair on his arms rise. Shadows disappearing. Voices stolen. Those are not metaphors. That is the old kind of loss, the kind stories warned about long before the first road was built through the forest. The soldier crosses himself. What does it want? Kolechi asks. The boy's eyes fill with tears. More. By evening, the officials decide to evacuate the area. They blame a gas leak or environmental contamination, whatever sounds least supernatural. They pack Sua into a van, planning to transport him to the city for psychological evaluation. Kolechi refuses to leave, not yet. The whispers are growing, the air feels wrong, and the old tales are unraveling in his mind. That night, he sits alone by the fire at the edge of the forest. He listens carefully. His grandmother always said, when the forest goes silent, something else is speaking. And tonight, the forest is silent, terrifyingly silent. Then he hears it. A breath, a soft, slow exhale coming from behind him. He freezes, his heartbeat is too loud. He forces himself to turn. There is nothing, but the fire flickers backward, as if pushed by breath. His grandmother's voice echoes in his memory. The Whisperer walks behind you first. If you turn fast, it will hide. If you turn slow, it will speak. Kolechi stands slowly. The shadows from the trees stretch toward him unnaturally, bending slightly, like heads tilting in curiosity. He backs away carefully. Then, snap. A stick breaks somewhere deep in the trees, not fallen, stepped on. Kolechi grabs his torch and rushes into the nearest hut, one of the empty ones. He hides behind the dust-covered mat, breathing as quietly as possible. But then he realizes something terrifying. This hut is not just empty. It's colder than the others. He feels the temperature drop rapidly. His breath becomes visible. Something is here. A whisper slides across the room. Kolechi. He slams his hand over his mouth to stop his breathing. The whisper comes again, closer. Kolechi, you heard the boy, you followed his steps, and now you've seen enough. His heart pounds so violently he fears it will give him away. A shadow moves across the wall. Not shaped like a human. Longer. Wrong. As if bending at too many angles. It stops beside the doorway. You want to know why the village vanished? The voice breathes, I can tell you. But answers cost shadows. Kolechi bolts. He doesn't think. He runs out of the hut, crashing through the bushes, torch shaking in his hand. The whisper chases him like a breath at his heels. He doesn't stop until he sees torchlights in the distance, soldiers on night patrol. Their lights break the darkness like knives, and immediately the whispering stops. Kelechi collapses, gasping. The soldiers rush to him, shouting questions he barely hears. He looks back at the forest. The darkness there is not normal darkness. It's thicker, alive, watching. Early the next morning, Sua's transport van returns unexpectedly. The two soldiers escorting him look pale. The supervising officer comes to Kelechi privately. "We can't take the boy to the city," he says. "Why?" Kelechi asks. The officer glances nervously at the van. "Because the boy lost his shadow on the way." Kelechi feels cold spread through his bones. A person without a shadow, the officer continues, is no longer just a person. The van door slides open. Sua sits inside, wide-eyed, staring at his feet. The sunlight touches him, but the ground beneath him remains bare. No shadow. None at all. Kelechi steps back instinctively. "What did it say to you this time?" Kelechi whispers. Sua lifts hollow eyes. "It wants you," he murmurs. "Because you didn't run far enough." Kelechi's mouth goes dry. "Why me?" "Because you looked at its mark," Sua says. "And it never lets witnesses go." The wind picks up suddenly. The leaves rustle backward, toward the darkness. And Kelechi knows he cannot leave the village, not yet. He has to uncover what the whisperer wants. He has to understand what happened to the villagers. Otherwise, his shadow will be next. And the whisperer is patient. Kelechi barely sleeps that night. Every time he closes his eyes he hears that whisper again, soft, close, almost affectionate in a way death should never be. He sits by the dim lantern in an abandoned hut, knees pulled to his chest, watching his own shadow like it might walk away without warning. Outside, soldiers patrol with torches and rifles, but even they move carefully, as if afraid of touching the night too hard. Sua remains locked in the van with two guards watching him from a distance. They refuse to stay close. They refuse to meet his eyes. They whisper about curses and old evils, but quietly, like speaking too loud might attract something listening above the trees. Kelechi knows fear is gripping every corner of this clearing, but he also knows fear alone won't solve anything. By dawn, he makes a decision. If the whisperer took a whole village, it did not take them randomly. Something triggered it. Something woke it. Something made it hungry. He needs to know what. He walks to the van. Sua sits hunched, staring blankly at the floor like he's afraid to blink. His missing shadow still makes the air wrong around him, like a piece of reality is missing. Kelechi speaks softly. "Sua, I need you to tell me what your village did last night." Sua doesn't move. "Anything unusual?" Kelechi adds. "A ritual. A celebration. A choral. A burial. Anything." Sua shakes his head slowly. "Nothing. It was Market Eve. Children played. Women pounded yam. Men drank palm wine. It was a normal night." "Normal nights don't wake old things," Kelechi says. Sua's fingers tighten around the blanket on his lap. His voice drops. "There was a story," he whispers. "An old one. The elders said the whisperer used to wander the valley long before our ancestors built Ajo. They said, as long as no one called its name after dark, it would leave us alone." Kelechi freezes. He already senses where this is going. Slowly, Sua continues. "Yesterday evening, we had visitors. Some outsiders from far towns. They came to buy palm wine from our brewers. They gathered by the fire. They asked for folktales." Kelechi feels the back of his neck prickle. And he pushes. "They begged for scary stories," Sua says. So Elder Bamedil told the old tale of the whisperer. He warned them not to say its name when night fully came. Kolechi's chest tightens. Did someone say it? Sua closes his eyes. A drunk man laughed. He shouted the name loudly. Twice. Kolechi swears under his breath. After that, Sua whispers, it was already listening. The whisperer didn't come by accident. It was called. Kolechi steps away, thinking. His grandmother always said, names carry weight. If you speak the wrong name, you invite the wrong thing. Now an entire village had paid the price. He turns when he hears footsteps. A soldier jogs toward him, face pale. Kolechi. The officers need you. You have to come. Kolechi follows him through the abandoned village. At the central clearing, something is on the ground, something new. A footprint, but not human. It's long, thin, almost skeletal, and it's pressed deep into the soil like something extremely heavy took a slow, deliberate step. Beside it, the soil is disturbed, like something was dragged. We found this before dawn, the officer says, voice shaking. Whatever made it is not moving like an animal. Kolechi kneels. He studies the footprint. Cold fear gnaws at him. The whisperer is not just watching. It is moving. A soldier approaches with an object wrapped in cloth. We found this under the mango tree where Sua sat yesterday. They unwrap it carefully. It's a shadow. A literal shadow. Flat. Black. Shape of a person sitting, but there is no person, only the shape. Kolechi feels sick. The officer stares. You're the only one who understands these things. What are we dealing with? Kolechi stands slowly. Something that shouldn't be named. Something that shouldn't be awakened. Something that owns silence. If it's leaving footprints now, it means it's no longer bound to the hill. Bound? The officer echoes. Kolechi nods grimly. That stone circle on the hill, it was a prison. A boundary. And when that drunk man called its name, the boundary cracked. He pauses. But when someone stepped into the circle, the boundary broke completely. The officer frowns. Who stepped into it? Kolechi swallows. Sua did, the night the village vanished. But before he can respond, a soldier shouts from across the clearing. You people should come and see this. They run. At the edge of the village, the soil is torn apart, as if dozens of hands claw their way into the earth. The ground is overturned. Roots ripped up. Dirt scattered everywhere. What happened here? The officer asks. Kolechi bends down and touches the soil. It's cold. Not morning cold, grave cold. They didn't walk away, he murmurs. The villagers were pulled down. The soldiers recoil in horror. Pulled? By what? Into where? Kolechi shakes his head. Into silence. The whisperer's realm. The officer grabs his arm. Is there a way to bring them back? Kolechi doesn't answer immediately. He thinks of the stories, the warnings, the whispers, the price. There is one thing, he says. The whisperer doesn't just steal people. It steals stories. If you give it a story stronger than the one that summoned it, you might distract it. Confuse it. Even weaken it. The officer blinks. A story. Kolechi nods. My grandmother used to say, the whisperer listens. But it also responds. If you tell it your fear, it eats you. But if you tell it your truth, it hesitates. So we tell it a story, the officer says incredulously. Not we, Kolechi says. Me. Sua suddenly staggers forward, clutching Kolechi's shirt. No. If you speak to it directly, it will take your voice. Then your shadow. Then your body. Kolechi steadies the boy. It wants me anyway. If I don't confront it, it will keep haunting this place. Sua begins to cry, tears of someone who has already seen the worst. You don't understand, he whispers. When it looks at you, you forget who you are. When it touches you, you forget that you ever lived. Kolechi kneels in front of him. Then tell me how to stop it. Sua's trembling worsens. You can't stop it. But maybe you can bargain with it. Bargain? Sua nods weakly. It collects things. Shadows. Names. Memories. If you offer it something else, something valuable, it might release the others. Kolechi straightens slowly. His mind races. What does it want most? He asks. Sua answers with a voice barely more than a breath. A witness. Kolechi frowns. A witness to what? To its story, Sua says. To the story no one has heard. The story it has been trying to tell since the first humans entered this valley. Kolechi exhales shakily. You want me to listen to the whisperer's story? Sua nods. But if you listen, it will unmake you. Kolechi stands. Maybe. But if I don't listen, every village around here is next. That's when the ground shakes. Only a little, but enough. A ripple runs through the soil like something massive turned over beneath it. The soldiers stagger. The officer looks around wildly. Sua, Kolechi says, where must I go to speak with it? The boy lifts a trembling hand toward the forest. To the place where shadows gather when they are hungry, he whispers. To the center of Aju's silence. Kolechi nods once and turns toward the trees. The officer grabs his arm. You're going into the forest alone. No, Kolechi says quietly. I'm going with the whisperer. The forest swallows him instantly. The air shifts from warm to icy. The trees seem to bend inward as if leaning to listen. Kolechi walks slowly, torch in hand, heart pounding hard enough to shake leaves. With each step, he hears faint whispers growing louder, not one voice, many, dozens, hundreds. They are calling to him. Something brushes his arm. A shadow, but no living thing stands there. He keeps walking. Ahead, the trees thin out into a clearing he has never seen before. At its center stands a figure. Tall, thin, long-limbed, its form flickers like smoke being shaped by hands. It has no face, just darkness. Its shadow stretches farther than it should, too far, like it's reaching for him. Kolechi, it whispers, though it has no mouth. He forces himself to stand tall. I'm here. The whisperer tilts its head. You follow stories the way others follow roads. Yes, Kolechi says. And I came to hear yours. The forest holds its breath. The whisperer's shape shifts slightly. Many have asked what I am. None have asked why I am. Then tell me, Kolechi says. The whisperer leans closer. Its shadow crawls toward him like a living creature. I was born when the first lie was told in this valley, it breathes. When one man accused another man falsely. When truth was buried under fear. When an innocent shadow was taken. Kolechi's heart stutters. A spirit born from injustice. That lie killed a man, the whisperer continues. His shadow wandered, searching for someone to hear his truth. No one listened. Not even his own kin. So his grief grew legs. His silence grew teeth. His truth grew hunger. Kolechi whispers, you are the shadow of the first innocent man. The whisperer's shape trembles like a memory. And every lie told since, it says. Every buried truth. Every injustice. Every voice silenced before it could speak. The enormity of it hits Kolechi. This spirit is older than any village, older than any story. What do you want from Aju? He asks. The whisperer's shadow crawls closer, calling around his shoes. They lied too, it breathes. They buried a truth in their midst. They ignored a voice calling for justice. And when my name was spoken, I came to see if their shadow was clean. Kolechi forces himself not to step back. Was it? The whisperer steals. No. Kolechi tries to steady his breath. Whose lie? Whose injustice? The whisperer's voice becomes colder, sharper, older. A child in Aju was wronged. When he cried for help, they silenced him. When he named the one who hurt him, they called him a liar. When he begged for justice, they beat him until he swallowed his truth. Kolechi feels something twist in his chest. Who hurt the child? A man the village respected, the whisperer says. A hunter. A leader. A father. When the child accused him, the village defended him. And so the wrong child died with truth trapped in his mouth. His shadow wandered to me. Kolechi's voice cracks. And you took the village in return. When truth is buried, the whisperer breathes, the earth must swallow something in its place. Kolechi shakes with anger and grief. Then release them. They didn't all take part. Then return what was stolen, the whisperer whispers. Find the truth they buried. Speak it aloud. Make the world hear it. Kolechi's breath stutters. How? No one is left. The whisperer steps closer. Its presence chills him to the bone. One still lives, it says. The man who caused the child's death. The hunter. He fled the village before dawn. Find him. Bring him back. Make him confess what he stole. And then? Kolechi asks. Then I will release what I took. Kolechi swallows hard. If he refuses, then the village remains mine, the whisperer says. Kolechi feels his heartbeat hammer. This is the bargain, the only chance. Where is the hunter? He asks. The whisperer lifts one long finger and points toward the riverbank beyond the forest. He runs from truth, it whispers. But truth does not get tired. Kolechi turns to go, but the whisperer speaks one last time. Be careful, storyteller, it breathes. If he lies again, I will come for you next. Kolechi runs, branches slash his arms, roots strip him. The whispers follow, the forest seems eager, like it wants a story to end tonight. He burst out at the riverbank, chest burning. And there, kneeling by the water, washing his hands like guilt stains the skin, is a man. Middle-aged. Rugged. Sword at his side, eyes wild. He looks up sharply. Who are you? Kolechi steps forward. The whisperer sent me. The man falters. No, I did nothing. I didn't mean to. So it's true, Kolechi says. You killed the child. The man grabs his sword, shaking. I only pushed him. He fell. It was an accident. I told them. You lied, Kolechi says. And your village believed you. The man's eyes widen. If the truth comes out, I'm finished. My name, my honor. Kolechi steps closer. Your shadow. The man stiffens. What? Kolechi points behind him. The hunter turns. He has no shadow. He drops the sword. His breath breaks. Tears spill onto the riverbank. I didn't mean to, he sobs. He saw something he shouldn't have. He threatened to tell. I grabbed him. He slipped. I panicked. I lied. I lied because I was afraid. Kolechi grabs him by the shirt. Say it louder. The man chokes. I lied. Louder. His scream echoes across the forest. I lied. I lied and the boy died because of me. The forest wind stops, the river stills. Then, far behind them, a deep rumble shakes the valley. Kolechi releases him. You're coming with me. The man nods shakily. They run back toward the village, toward the clearing. As they break through the trees, they see it. The soil is rising, humps of earth bulge upward, muffled voices echo from beneath. Then, one by one, the villagers climb out. Hands covered in dirt, faces bewildered, voices trembling. Alive. Everyone screams in joy, in terror, in disbelief. Sewer collapses with relief. The villagers gather, sobbing, hugging, shaking. Mothers cling to children. Elderly men cry into their hands. The soldiers stare in stunned silence. The whisperer's footprint slowly fades from the soil. The only one who doesn't celebrate is the hunter. Because his shadow is still missing. He whispers to Kolechi, trembling. Will I get it back? Kolechi shakes his head. You buried a truth, he says quietly. Now you live with none. A chill wind blows. Somewhere in the forest, a whisper fades. But not completely. Kolechi turns toward the hill. The stone circle is empty now, broken, silent. But something watches him from the shadows. He feels it. He knows it. The whisperer does not forget witnesses. He starts back toward the others, relieved but uneasy. Applause rises as families reunite, but Kolechi hears something else beneath the noise. A faint breath behind him. Kolechi. He freezes. You told my story, the whisperer murmurs. But stories do not end. They only turn. He turns slowly. There is nothing there. Nothing except a shadow on the ground. A shadow that isn't his. One that follows him anyway. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, comment what you learned from it, and share it with your friends and family who may need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe so you can continue enjoying more captivating stories like this one.